introduce him, but I'm going to introduce him anyway. So Andy is my dear friend. I met him at seminary over 25 years ago. He was the dean there, and he had taught Old Testament. He's always selected as the outstanding professor by the students. He is a consummate teacher. He has a way of speaking that brings history to life. And if you were here 2 weeks ago, when Andy had done 2 presentations on the history of Iran, and it was a wonderful time because he taught us so much in a very folksy way. If you recall, he was one of the things he was talking about was King Leonidas of Sparta faced off against the Persian forces under Xerxes in 480 BC. And the Persian rulers ordered the Spartans to lay down their weapons. And King Leonidas responded, "Molen lobe." In Greek, that means "come and take them." That's a popular phrase today. Well, as Andy said, his North Carolina grandmother then explained what happened next. She said, and then they got to fighting. And that's the history of the world. One person says, I want this. Another person says, come and take it. And then they get to fighting. And Andy, we just wanted you to keep teaching that. And that's why we got a little present for you.
Okay, thank you.
He's since he always plays tennis every week. It's something he can wear on tennis. It's a wonderful T-shirt. It says Molen Labe, ... and then they got to fighting.
All right. Wow. Thank you. I hope they won't be fighting about a line call. It's out. No, it's out. It's out. All right. I got that one. Okay. Am I modulated all right, friends? Thank you, Chris. The pastor of the congregation here, Bill Peterson, had suggested this topic, and so I readily agreed. I will just say to you very briefly that I come by my interest in pottery honestly. I'll do this very, very quickly. You will all recognize this pattern when if you go to college. You'll find a favorite professor or two, and whatever he or she is involved in, sometimes you'll get caught up in it also. So when I went on for some graduate work in Atlanta, I had a professor who was taking up a project doing surface exploration of an area in the country of Jordan. It was about 400 square miles, about a 20 by 20 area. And we had maps from the CIA. This was in the late 70s, because those maps had the best contours. And we would work from what was called the known to the unknown. So on the maps already, this is an ancient site. We had the Land Rovers, and we would go out every day, and we would look for pottery sherd scatters, just broken pieces of pottery you might see, or what might look like a wall line. And then we would systematically collect the pottery. We would take pictures. If they had wall lines, we would do measurements and so forth, and then we did a database. So I did archaeological survey work for a couple of seasons that way, and then I did it a little bit later for another project. And then I thought, I want to dig, so I also started participating in some excavations over the years, and I have no joke here, I have no artistic talent. I could not make a pot if my life depended on it. But I'm really interested in it, and I got pretty good at finding it. And so, over the years, I have collected some pieces. I have some whole pieces that I've brought, and then lots of pieces of broken pottery, which I will show you. When I'm done in an hour or so, I'll be glad to make a few comments about this, and we can gather around the table if you like. If you're headed to lunch, that's fine, but I'm happy to make some comments. And all I would say is you're welcome to pick up one of the broken pieces, but not the whole pieces. I'd be grateful if you just let them right where they are. Fair enough? Okay. So, I like the quotation with which we begin. I do not know who Kayel I is, but I don't know if it's a male or female name. I just know that they were writing about ancient pottery, and I like the quotation that it's arguably the world's most commonly practiced form of ancient art. And think about it with me for a moment, friends. If you just go back, let's say a few millennia, no refrigerator, no cabinets, no plates, no cookingware. I could keep going. Somebody decided that you could take wet clay and shape it and then make vessels that would be suitable for storage and other activities. And as you're going to find out, even it becomes stationery and documents. So quite a broad repertoire for pottery. Now, let me just ask, because I saw a potter come in right there in the back. How are you doing? Anybody else here a potter? Okay, here we go. So there'll be some things about the making of pottery I won't be able to answer, but you can ask the experts. Alex is sitting back here and Mike up here. Okay? Here we go. So on that left side there was your basic pouring pitcher, right? You can see how it's shaped. But you can use it, you know my phrase, stuff. You can just put stuff in it for storage. And somebody did. And they buried it about 2,800 years ago. And it looked like from the first photograph there that it was just non-distinct. Turns out that it was a family's savings. And so once it was cleaned, you can see all of the silver that somebody had put in their pouring pitcher. Maybe they poured milk in the mornings for cereal, who knows? That's a lot of silver. This is before coins. So this would be valued by weight, you know, not by stamp or denomination of a coin and so forth. It's a sad commentary on the human condition that that family had to flee. They buried their fortune, and as you can see, they did not get back to collect it. It does happen on more than one occasion. Here's another example of a family that put together at least some of their fortune, gold and silver and jewelry, and they buried it. This comes from a later time, and they did not get back either. But you see there, they put it just in a pot and buried it right there. I'll show you what it looks like. That's a considerable collection, isn't it? That's more than a piggy bank, wouldn't you say? Silver and gold and jewelry. So pottery, once it's formed, whatever shape it takes, it can be used for a variety of purposes. Let me suggest this to you. Think how plastic and polymers have influenced our life. Things you can do with that. Pottery was that kind of a gift, discovered in various places, been around for a long time. Okay, there we go. I like, you know, the famous Rodin statue. It's in all the art books. It's cast, and there are several examples of it. But I showed you on the very first slide, somebody had a thinker, just like that they talk about the human impulse to decorate for self-expression. So here, friends, think about this for a moment. In terms of art, you got two guys without any clothes on, just sitting there thinking away before they jump up and do something. Isn't that great? Now, if you look at this one, friends, right here, you'll see the spout on the back of the pouring jar. But somebody, that artistic impulse, isn't it great? You know, they roll the pieces together, got the arms and the legs and so forth, and They got the thinker. Just separated by a few millennia. Same pose, isn't it? Okay, so if you ask the prehistorians and the anthropologists and so forth, they will say that pottery arose almost spontaneously in a variety of places. There probably is no satisfactory answer to where did it start, because it started in various places. It wasn't just one, apparently. And the oldest examples that exist today, will change tomorrow, but that exist today, come from the Far East, in Japan and China. And it goes back somewhere about 25,000 years BCE. It's a long way. Well before there was a wheel, which we'll talk about in a moment, but they may have used some reeds or something to kind of help them form something, and then to get it fired in a certain way, enough so that it would become hard and able to use. But it would not take long, of course, before they would start decorating them, that human spirit for self-expression. So on that third bullet point, friends, one of the great inventions in the world, we all learned this in school, did we not? The invention of the wheel. So many things changed with the development and the use of that rolling device. And so what you see on the bottom side here, same one over here, are two stone components of a potter's wheel. So that once you have gotten your clay prepared, you can then start working on it, and you turn very slowly so that the mass of clay is there, and you start shaping it with movement. So you don't have to move it yourself, you're just guiding it. And there are various forms of development of a wheel. They developed a fast wheel. They developed kilns to control the heat for cooking, literally cooking the clay so that the vessel would be strong and resilient. Just remember sort of a general rule of thumb. I think this is fair, is it not, Mike and Alex? But the faster the wheel, the little easier it is sometimes to maneuver the clay in your hand. Okay, just as an example, if you've seen pictures of prehistoric human communities with cave paintings, please nod your head. I know some of you have seen those kind of pictures. One of the things that will strike you, are the vibrant colors and the mixing of colors. Here is a very early, let's call it a platter. That'd be a typical term to use, something like this. If you look at it carefully, you'll see it's not quite symmetrical. It was not made, this is pre-wheel, so it was made totally by hand in a stationary position, but they were able to form it. It's a good mixture of clay and water into the vessel that they wanted. They probably put it near a fire, because this is pre-kiln, but anyway, think of what they did with those colors. Now, the way something like this survives, as you might imagine, is going to be in a tomb. And so it all depends in terms of longevity of the colors on the humidity. Is it disturbed? Does something fall on it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But if we're fortunate, this is what you get. So that's about 8,000 years old. It comes from the Neolithic period, where the stone tools were what most people had to work with. Isn't that a stunning example? It came out just this summer from Iraq. So it rested comfortably in that tomb for millennia. And what vibrant pigments they used for their colors. Okay, real quickly, a little bit about the actual production in the ancient world. So clay is dirt, soil, but it is fine particles. So it's a subset of what we call dirt. It's plentiful, and there's sub-variations of it and so forth, but the key to it is its mixture with water. So it absorbs water, then it becomes malleable and can be worked with by an artist or a potter. And I don't know, is it still the case that people throw pots? Is that the term that's still used? You throw a pot. You got it. So you find a source of clay. It's relatively plentiful, but it's not just everywhere. So in any human community, one of the questions that the artisans will ask is, where's the clay? Once they find it, they'll collect it. Then the issue is the mixture with water, and the formula will vary depending on the type of clay. So they're working on it. Now you'll see here an example of a wheel. They'll start to shape it. One person has got a hand on the wheel, is turning it, and they will produce the vessels, and they will start to dry them right there, and then they'll have a kiln right here in which they will bake the clay into its final form. And they can paint it or use glaze depending on the period in question. Now, this little illustration is derived from tomb paintings in Egypt, where they depicted this activity in a fair amount of detail. There are lots of scenes of daily life in the Egyptian tombs, and so somebody took this and made it into a nice display. Okay, the importance of the wheel. Here are two examples. Williams College in our Northeast had a display once in their museum. This is a stone piece right there that is a replica of several that have been found, where you can turn from the bottom. It's a larger wheel, and you use the kinetic energy from that wheel for the smaller one up here, because it's going to turn a little quicker at the top, right? And so the clay will be placed there, and work will begin. Here's another example where you can see someone is going to turn the wheel. It could be wood, it could be stone, it could even be pottery in some instances, and turn it, and then they're able to set right here the pot on the top and start shaping it. Here's some good utilitarian wear there in the background as you clay and water and so forth. The importance of the wheel, and then the control of the temperature. Okay, so you say to somebody, I'm interested in ancient pottery, and a lot of people will think, gosh, I can remember my ancient Civ class and those marvelous paintings from classical Greek history. Would that apply to some of you? Remember some of those great examples from classical period of Greek history? So these are all what I would call utilitarian pieces that have become world-renowned treasures of art because of the painting on there, the self-expression. So what you have here on the side, and this is from, I believe I took these, the museum in Detroit. Don't hold me to that, friends, but I think that's right. So here is what's called a mixing bowl. Anybody got a mixing bowl in your kitchen? Oh, yeah. You ain't got one like that. It's become an art form. And this is the two-handled one right here. That's for the vino, for the wine. And here is one for water. And they have a little bit different shape and different function. But in classical Greek society, that became an expression for people with means and interest. So that they would have these works of art. Every museum loves to collect these. I'm a bit of a collector. I'm sorry, my bank account would not allow me to acquire one of these, but I would love to. I can only acquire them by legal means, and I'm unable. Beautiful, beautiful pieces. And you can take a course in the classics department at UT today, and they could even have more than one class. They've got schools of the painters. These are sometimes signed pieces of work, and they're not only in the schools. They'll say this is your black on red right here, and then you've got red on black painting and so forth. If you ask about the dates of something like this, that's about 300, 350 BCE, and that's about a century or so earlier. Stunning pieces of art. Another example of your large classical Greek crater right there. That's a big one. Look at the artwork on that. It's fired perfectly. The mixture of the clay, it's the best clay, perfectly mixed in the water, perfectly fired, and then almost perfectly painted. I mean, it's work of art. They often use scenes from Greek mythology and the great traditions. Here is Achilles. Right here, it's a scene from the Iliad, and it's the author signs it right there. So that's black on red. A beautiful piece of work there. All right. Okay, how do you just come across stuff like this? So on that left side right there, some decades ago, I will confess I'm one of those people. You can try to figure out which one it is. We would collect the pottery out in the field, and we make an initial look at it, and then we'd make sure that we labeled the places properly, and then we would take it, and here's the task. Sorry, excuse me, go back here. You got to wash every piece. No telling what's on it. You don't want to scrub it too hard. I mean, for all you know, it's got some writing on it. Not likely, but it is possible. I'd love to have $1 for every piece of pottery, broken piece of pottery that I have washed. Then I could buy one of those. Because I washed thousands and thousands of pieces of pottery. One quick comment about culture. So right here, this is 1979, is a representative from the Department of Antiquities in Jordan. He's wearing a baseball cap. Here's Harold Mayer, a professor from St. Louis. He's wearing a keffiyeh. Isn't that great? That's a nice interchange, don't you think? All right, most pottery is going to be found on an excavation. And most of the time, it's going to be broken. So a good illustration of this on your, as you're looking at it on the left-hand side. Now that is also a dental pick. Dexter, aren't you just back from the dentist? It's a different pick, trust me. But you can see how fine that work is. The hope would be, can we get at least those fragments, some of which are intact, out with the dirt or whatever else might be inside of it? Can we get it all out in one piece? Sometimes the answer is yes, most times not. But that's the attempt. That's why you got the fine pieces or the fine dental pick there. Try to dig around it to see if that's going to be possible. But this is your typical working utilitarian ware. It's not painted, it's not fancy, but it was rugged and reliable. And if you broke it in the course of life, you just threw it out, the window out into the street. And so it would build up over time. That becomes one of your best diagnostic indicators of the date of a place. So there's a bucket right there, and it will be taken and processed, and yes, it has to get washed. To show you one illustration, this is from 2007. Again, in Jordan, a whole piece was found at a place. You actually see the name right there. It's called Kerbet Iskander. And so we found this piece right here, a whole piece. You can see that over time, it's completely full of dirt. But you don't know, could it have had something else in there? Your assumption would be it was for pouring liquids, probably water. But you don't know. Remember the first slide I showed you? It had a bunch of money in it, right? So you don't know. The point being, the first thing you want to do is see if you can get it out in one piece. So here it is in a rubber basket right there. The Arab word, you'll love it, right here for carrying stuff is called a gufa. So as one of the first terms you learn working over there, you have another gufa, so you can haul stuff around, and then you'll process it. So the first thing you have to do with a vessel like this, and I use this with some students, is your basic teaching device. You've got to carefully get the stuff out. The assumption, of course, is it's just dirt, but you don't know. So you've got to check it. You're going to ask me, what is the date of something like this? It's about 2400 BCE. So, 4,400 years old? That's pretty resilient piece. Okay, so then once you've done that, you've got to clean it, and then here it is, right there. Nice little piece, and now it's in the museum. Okay, so if you're on an excavation, here are lined up buckets from different parts of the excavation, all labeled precisely where they came from, that had to be washed. And then you have what's called pottery reading. So here are the pieces, and you've got a professor there from Gannon University, and that's one of her students, and that's a student from Austin Seminary right there, and they're taking a look at it and making some judgments about it and so forth. So that's how it gets processed. Now, just as an illustration of finding a pottery and then what it looks like. Here is a basic mound. It's called a tell, and it was not a large site. It was not densely occupied, but it was occupied for several centuries. Nobody knows for sure even if it's a name that would be known from ancient sources. Chances are it's possible, but you don't know. This is from the modern state of Israel. The drone picture was taken in the springtime when it rains, nice and green. We have that also in Texas, don't we? We get green some of the year, and then some of the year we get on the right side there. It's kind of tan. So I'll give you an idea of what the levels look like, and this is we'll call it a settlement or a large village. So it's primarily domestic. And it turns out that whatever drove them away or brought the final settlement to an end, there were lots of pieces of pottery, mostly broken, on the floors of these houses. You never know when you start digging. What was it that Forrest Gump said? Life is like a box of chocolates. You just don't know what you're going to get. You open it. That's the same thing in archaeology. Okay, so there is a cooking pot. One of the things that we found there, a real working vessel. You want stew for dinner? This is what it's going to come in, right there. 4 handles, sturdy, it's not decorated. You put it right there on the fire, stir it up, and you've got stew for dinner. Now, I'll give you some idea of the various kinds of daily vessels. Some look nicer than just utilitarian, but daily vessels. Every household had these. Even those who moved about in tents had these kind of vessels for storage, for cooking, for drinking, etc. Think of the laboratory work that went, friends, to put those back together. Anybody here like to do puzzles? I know some of you like to do puzzles. Beverly, I know you do puzzles. There you go, Ann. Okay. That's real puzzle work there. Notice the preponderance of storage vessels. That's your pantry. Those are your cupboards. It's where your liquids, your grains, your various kinds of storage things all go in there. Okay, you'll know the name Philistine, a group of people known in the Bible and from other ancient sources. And this is a collection of their work that came from a different site, not the one I just showed you, but what I wanted you to see, and it's a little difficult at your distance, but if you look carefully, you can see that there will be some paint. Oh, here you've got some nice strainers right here. This would be the equivalent, it's not level of the Greeks, but you'd call this fine china ware right here. Nicely made pieces which are decorated and can be used various kinds of display and pouring. Got bowls, strainers right here, decanters almost. Big bowl right there. I'm not sure what would have gone in there, but if your party's big enough, I'm afraid to guess. You know, I'm from Baptist country. What might have gone in there? That's a big one right there. Then you would have labels to dip it from and so forth. Really a great collection. You'll see how common it is from the ancient world. Okay, that's a coffin, in case you're wondering. These come from about 1300, 1200 BCE, And they were found in a place much in the news today, Gaza. You know, Gaza has been a well-known city in the ancient world for millennia. And there were some Egyptian soldiers who were stationed there, and some of them died, and they were following a particular burial custom. It's not so typical in the main part of Egyptian society, but it was in theirs. These were hired, these are mercenaries. And so if you look at it carefully, you'll be able to see this whole panel right here gets removed, and then you can slide the remains in there, then place it back, and you will put it in it's not an overly deep grave, but deep enough to be covered up and so forth. And in a place which is as densely inhabited as the Gaza Strip has been in recent decades, you dig around, you're going to find things like this. Okay, now here's another example, and I show you this. I hesitate in some sense, but it is what it is. Most archaeologists do not go out looking for tombs. I mean, there's something creepy. Isn't there really, you think about it, uncovering somebody's tomb? I don't want mine when I'm gone. Somebody poking around in it. And they are often found, inadvertently. Here's one that was found. You see the approximate date there. It's a single burial, relatively shallow, but it raises the issue of grave goods, because that's where most things come from. For example, we'll talk a little bit, a lamp like this one down here, or the painted little juglet right there. Almost all of those kinds of things come from tombs, because you never know what you might need in the afterlife. And so here's it's a single burial, and all of the clutter around it right here are pieces of pottery, most of which are broken, not because the grave was disturbed, but just it's the general movement of the earth, things put on top, and so forth. You can see that thought was given to from this person's family. Arms are folded, the legs are folded, and what we might want to call, for lack of a better term, grave goods have been placed around the person. So once you restore those pieces, you can get some idea of the type of vessels that were given to this individual. They're nice pieces, and it turns out that about 2 years ago they started doing these pre-specialized tests of the lining of some of these jars. These are fairly common jars that you find them a lot in graves and in fine chinaware and so forth. It turns out that it had some form of wine in it with opium. Yeah, poppies residue. So, like I said, you never know what you might need on the other side. It had a form of opium in it. Okay, there we go. On the theme of vessels and what you can find, here is a cave in the northern part of Israel, and the dates here are quite old, 4,500 BCE, so that would be 6,500 years old. That's a long time ago. And it's one of these caves that became a cemetery for a group of people, and it's also from a culture where they did reburials. So, for example, you might put in a family loved one who has died and come back later and collect the bones and put them in a vessel. Or you might have ceremonies. So while the community lived nearby, and over a period of decades, if not a few centuries, a number of people are buried here or reburied, reinterred here, and quite a bit of effort from this community. I mean, think of the date now. Quite a bit of energy from this community to give thanks for and to celebrate their family members. This comes from what's called the Chalcolithic period. You may recognize that term. It's where people had learned to mix copper and tin bronze and tin to make copper. And so they made copper implements. So let me just show you some of the pieces. So here you go. Here are two of them. These are ossuaries or bone boxes. So someone you loved, you would come back and rebury and make sure the bones are kept together and all in one place. You might have a section of this cave, say for a particular family, as part of the larger community. Yeah, that's pottery, not stone. All right, here is a burial jar there on your left and a human figure on your right. Beautiful work there. You would have to have made first the stand, and then you would do the vessel itself, and then you would make the handles to put them on and other decoration. You got paint, and then you'd have a top right there. So several steps in the making of such a storage vessel. Chalices is a way to hold probably an offering or something dedicated, perhaps part of a service for the internment of the person, and then left there. So think of the investment of time and work for these chalices to leave them there in this, I'll call it a cemetery, in the cave. Beautiful pieces there, again made in stands with tops, the painting and so forth. A couple more examples from there. There is a secondary burial container right here with a double-headed, here with perhaps a snake motif and a human face, cups on the top. Again, friends, quite a bit of investment in that community. All right, what's that one, friends? You got it? Churn. You put goat's milk, or if they have a cow, and there were cows available at this time and place, but more likely to be a goat, and you can put the milk in there and you can shake it. You might heat it up a little bit. You can stir it, and you can get various kinds of sauces, a kind of yogurt, curds, things like that. So various usage of the milk products. Now, that reminds me to say, a serious comment. I've got a picture that's coming up. It is anatomically specific. And I'm not joking. I don't want to offend anybody. It's one of the treasures in the National Museum in Israel, but I mean, it's specific, okay? Okay? All right. So here she is on the left-hand side there with the churn on her head and sitting on a type of a stool right here where she can rest. Right there. Think of the stages it took to make that. Mike and Alex in particular, you've got to do the bottom. You have to do the figure, and you roll the piece of the arms and the legs and so forth, and then the churn on the top. Then have it all. So it's malleable, but it's also firm enough to stay intact, to be heated up. I mean, it's really quite an impressive work of art. Also from this same time period, you see a sheep right here with these vases on the top, some kind of ceremonial drink offering or whatever, but a beautiful piece. Okay, here's one on the left. I wasn't sure how to label it. Miss Piggy kind of came to mind right there. But a beautiful stand, the depiction of animals. And sometimes you'll see hybrids, human and animal mixture. Here's a bull from the Philistine culture right here. Also, again, probably for some kind of ceremonial pouring, so forth. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you for a few minutes about lamps. I wish I had a better picture than the one that I'm showing you, but it was the best that I've been able to come up with. Maybe I should try to get my own collection and do it in a small enough place for one photo. But good illustration of how these vessels change over time. And so what you see here, friends, on this side, and again, the same thing over here, essentially in chronological order. So this is a diagnostic device for people when they discover these. They say, okay, this place was settled about this time because of this material culture. So this is a star lamp right here. And if you're looking for a rough date, just think 2000 BCE. So 4,000 years old. And then here's one that's a couple hundred years later, then a couple hundred years, a couple hundred years, a couple hundred years or so. And then you see they finally fold it over. See how it's getting more and more folded? And eventually be here. Here's one from the time of Alexander the Great. Here's one from about the time of Herod the Great in the first century. And here's one, and it's almost identical to that one right down there, which is about 300 or so CE. So anyway, a nice collection of this in one spot to see. I mean, after all, when there's no electricity, what do you do when it's dark? You need something in your hand that you can carry with you that holds oil, and you can drop a wick on the side so you can walk around in your house or outside at night if it's cloudy. There we go. An illustration right there. It's a modern illustration, of course. Now, here is one of those star lamps. If you look at it carefully, friends, and I can see it from where I'm standing, you can see when it was first getting on the wheel, you can see the striations right here as they started to turn it, just before they got to fold it. And these are the kinds of things you get from tombs all the time, and so you'll often see they probably left it burning, and you'll see how the wick burned down there. And depending on, again, on the humidity and so forth, it can last all that time. Just this summer, digging around about 4,000-year-old community, some actual wicks survived. Can you imagine? The actual wicks. What were they made of? Linen. And not only linen, they said the kind of linen that had been spun and used in clothing. And so you're seeing ancient recycling. So if you've got a nice outfit and stuff happens, you wear it out, it gets ripped, whatever, you say, I'm not tossing it out. You start taking the strips and rolling them up, and that's how you keep your lamps going. Good pieces of linen. So just the kind of right environment for linen to last 4,000 years. Amazing. Okay, I like this particular slide because you can see different sides of this working lamp. Nothing special about it. There are hundreds of examples of it, or no, thousands probably. It's pretty similar to this one, which is right down here. And you can see different sides of it right there. About 3,200, 3,300 years old. Okay, if you look at this carefully, these which have the recess in them are molds. Eventually, they decided or developed these stone molds. You could simply put the clay in there for handheld lamps. I mean, everybody needs dozens of handheld lamps, so you've got to be able to make them, factory production. And so here are the kinds of lamps right here, and here are the molds that are associated with them. I think I've got one coming up next here. Let's see. Oh, yes. So here's the lamp right here. If you can see two figures carrying grapes right here. And so here's the mirror image of it right there. And you put in the wet clay, it dries up, you separate it out, and then you bake it. Great example of mass production. Henry Ford would have been proud of it. I'm serious. Think about it. The kind of steps it takes to be efficient with something like this. All right, here's a chandelier. Anybody, superstitious about walking under lamps above? It's all made out of clay. Think about it. That's the first thing. It's got about, at least 20 nozzles. That's a lot of oil with a lot of burning wicks above your head. But if you're in a large place and it has a high ceiling, this is the way to light it up. Very impressive piece. It comes from the Roman period. All right, utensils. Just you think everyday utensils or containers. What you see on the left-hand side, a beautiful painted picture, that's where you would keep things like perfumes or sweet-smelling unguents. And so you turn it over, and a little bit's going to come out. And now, I'm no expert, but come out and do a little bit like this and so forth, and sweet-smelling. And here is a scooper right here. I don't know about you, but my favorite kitchen utensil is the ice cream scooper for Bluebell. I use it every day, without exception. And so there's a well-crafted scooper right there. Okay, here is a strainer. This was used for beer. And the way that fermented process takes place, once you have the beer inside, it's going to have some surviving, so I call them particles, floaters, stuff. And so you need a strainer. So you're pouring your best friend a drink. You want to make sure it's just beer, right? Nothing else, no sediment. And the reason they know that is they did the pretty expensive test of the lining. That vessel is painted, so you can see it's a nice piece for having family and friends over. It's about 2,900 years old. All right, painting. If you have a glaze, and a couple of examples of some glaze down here, I'll show you in a little while. So the Nabateans, a famous Arab trading group, they're on your left, about 100 CE. Beautiful birds. My own favorite is this one over here on the right with a beautiful glaze on this. Abbasid is a period of the Islamic empire in what we would call today Iraq, Iran, Syria area. I mean, I think Audubon would be proud of that, don't you? And it's a beautiful piece right here, about 900 CE. Just a gorgeous piece. And it was signed right there by the author. Stands. When you get into ceremonial buildings like a temple or a palace or reception hall, your art is going to be highly symbolic. I wonder if it was a team. Maybe it was one person. This is from a place called Tanakh, and it dates about 1000 BCE. It'll be about the time of King David in the Bible. Look at the work, the register 1, 2, 3, and 4, and a top. The figures, human and animal. Putting that together when it's still malleable, it's not going to collapse. And then moving it to getting it fired, I mean, that's a real laborious process, wouldn't you say? The one on your right is a stand, probably it's a Philistine, probably from a temple, and you've got your musicians down here. They had a praise band right there, playing on flutes and so forth. Again, think about the work to get that in place and then to fire it. Okay, model structures. Most archaeologists think of these as model temples. I think that's going to be true, at least in some cases, and I'll show you two for sure in just a moment. But it could be a palace. It could be, a variety of things. But again, think of the detail work. We've all seen people who have model houses, things that they put together, almost like a puzzle. Think of the work it takes to put these together right here. All right, here are two that are model shrines. And the reason we know that is that most of the temples from this time period had two columns out front. The temple built by Solomon had two. The temple that Jesus went into had two out front. They even had names for the two columns. And so here are two shrines. These are both from east of the Jordan River, so probably it could have been Moabite or Ammonite or whatever. You can see here the symbolic expression there of those two columns out front. Not three, not one, two. Okay, now this next segment has to do with writing. It's amazing to me how ancient clay, pottery, become documents. It's an amazing thing. So here's something from a Mandean family. This would be from southern Iraq, about 200 or 300 CE. And they had this enclosed in the floor of their house. You know, time passes, it's covered up. Archaeologists find it. It is a series of spells to ask the powers of the cosmos to please protect my family. And so it was buried there in the house. You can see it's not the shape that matters, it's what's written on it. You see, here's just kind of your basic bowl right there. But the intricate writing, starting up here and going in circles all the way down right there, naming every family member and all the things that they need protection from. Okay, this may not have occurred to you. Think of clay as stationary, as official documents. So here's one. You can see the bullet points there. On the left, you'll see a stamp where when the clay is wet, you impress a stone. It will have a symbol on it. May have names, may have a variety of things right there, and it will be an official seal. Not unlike, anybody have documents signed by a notary or public? Same kind of function. And so this is the back side of it. So here's the actual document itself, and here is a scene. You would do that with a kind of rolled hard stone. It's called a cylinder seal, and you roll it across the clay, and as the cylinder rolls over, it gives you this scene right here of the king on the throne. So if you see right here, second bullet point, they're acknowledging a shipment of horses. Okay, glad you got your horses. But think of the effort that went into acknowledge that from one king to another king. And then, of course, once you acknowledged it, you put that on the shelf somewhere in an administrative place so that you can keep a copy. Now, we have electronic copies of things, but think about the old style of paper. I mean, this is going to last a long time. They also had what was called papyrus, but these are for documents that are going to last a while. Okay, so if you go to the British Museum today, typical British fashion, they got the nice shelving here of all these different documents that came from the Assyrians. That's Ashurbanipal right there. If you want a rough date, just think 635, 640 BCE. You can see those are not books, those are tablets stuck up there, and then various other kinds of documents coming through here. What do they have in common? Baked clay. Okay, how about letters? I showed you a picture earlier of a typical bucket with broken pieces of pottery, just basic utilitarian pieces. What are you going to use it for? You can throw it out, but you can also save it, and you can write letters on it. Here's an example of some letters from the city called Arad. You often find them together because they would be kept in storage, some kind of administrative office. Now, here's an example, and you'll see the method of my madness in just a moment. This comes from the southern part of Egypt. And so here it would be what you would call a paper document, papyrus. And if it's stored properly, and it's such an arid area, it can survive. It may not, but it can survive. But here you'll see what they used to do with important documents that are on either parchment or papyrus. Remember, parchment is animal skin. So they have the document right here. It's rolled up, they tie it with a string, and then they take some wet clay and somebody's official seal. And sometimes it'll have 3 or 4 of them. And when they tie the document, they'll put the seal on top of the knot. So you can't untie it unless you break the seal. And so the way people knew that the document, as they will say today, had not been messed with, had not been altered, is if the string is there intact and the seal over it has not been broken. They don't cook or bake the clay, just let it dry. So it can crumble. But this is a way to preserve documents in their same unaltered state. And lots of deeds, transactions like, say, a marriage contract or the purchase of a home. And this right here is the Aramaic word for deed. You'll see it in both places right there. So that lasted pretty well, wouldn't you say? Okay, so what do you press into the clay? That's another subject, but I'll give you one illustration right here. Look at all of these precious and semi-precious stones right here, intricately carved so that you could put a seal on there. So the one right there in the middle is over here on the large side, and it's got, it says ZBL. And there's a J up here, about just on the corner there. Jezebel. Was this the Jezebel of possibly? But you can see somebody loved this artwork, and it was probably the artwork was done first, and then she wanted her name on there. The scattering of the letters is not typical, which means that it was the art that impressed, and then the names are on there. But lots of examples of these right here. All right, friends, put on your seatbelt. I've got about 5-10 minutes, and I'll be done. A storage jar. You've already seen examples of them several times. When the government gets involved in collecting things, which does happen, right? April 15th, right? Here's a big storage jar with multiple handles, and you can't see it from where you're sitting, but there is a stamp right there. It came from one of these hard stones. Here's an example of one where the handle is broken off. It's kind of a winged sun or something like this, and on the top it says, belonging to the king, and on the bottom it will tell you of a place of storage. It's taxes or government property. Now here's one I hope will impress all of you. This was found about 10, 12 years ago. Now this is the clay. The term is bulla, B-U-L-L-A. It's a Latin term for the piece of clay. Remember, it's wet. It's not been fired. They'll let it dry out, and you impress something in it. It belongs to Hezekiah, the king of Israel. It was found in a control. It's not been faked. Right there, friends, that says 2 or 4 are belonging to Chazak, Yahu. Then it will say Ahaz. Ahaz was his father, so it was the son of Ahaz. Melech, Yehudah, king of Judah. Can you imagine? I wish I had found that. So, if you go to the museum in Israel today, one of their prized displays are dozens and dozens and dozens of examples. They actually have hundreds of them, of these seals that come from the 7th and 6th centuries. Apparently that was a big time for administrative documents in Jerusalem, where you'll have the name and sometimes the title of the official, like a notary public. Remember what we do with the notary public? His or her name is on there, and then there's a seal that goes with it, right? Same thing here. And the documents are going to be kept in various places. So I'm going to show you a couple more, and then I'll be done. And then we'll take a break, and we'll talk about these if you like. So here's what a typical one of these looks like. it'll have two registers right there. This one's been broken, and the papyrus document that it was attached to burned up long ago. But you see, that wet clay, which was dried in the sun, then this comes from Jerusalem when it was destroyed by the Babylonians. That's really your key. Then these pieces of clay get baked and preserved for a longer period. So, this one says, belonging to Gemariah, and there's a word for son, and there's a name, S-H-P-N, Shaphan. Shaphan is right out of the book of 2 Kings. We've got a seal for him and for his sons and his grandsons, all in this collection. It's an amazing thing. Just an amazing thing. I'll show you three of those kind of as a way to close, give you an idea of what you can do with clay. So here's some of those from the time of Jeremiah. Here are four that come right out of the book of Jeremiah. So this one on the side right here, you don't have to do it, but there's a Bible right in front of you. If you go to chapter 38 of the book of Jeremiah, we're told that there were a couple of officials who did not like the prophet Jeremiah. Can you imagine? And one of them was named Gedaliah, and B means Ben, son of. Gedaliah, the son of Pashur. So that's right there. There is his seal. Right there. And it's just an incidental comment. Nothing is made about it other than that this is a person. We know his name. He didn't like Jeremiah. And then that's it. Just the name. In that same passage, a fellow by the name of Yehucal, and he's the son of Shelemiah. And his grandfather, right here, his name is Shovi, is right there. We've got his seal impression. Here is that one I just showed you on the previous page, Gemariah, the son of Shaphan. And here's the one that you may remember that Jeremiah had a trusted companion. His name was Baruch, the son of Neriah, the scribe, who copied the book of Jeremiah out and followed Jeremiah around. His full name was Berechiah. Baruch is an abbreviation, just like Andrew and Andy, William and Will. That says belonging to Baruch, the son of Neriah, and down at the bottom it says the scribe. And friends, I smile when I say this. If you were to turn to Jeremiah 36, there's a phrase in there, Baruch, the son of Jeremiah, the scribe. Exactly that same phrase right there on the seal. Isn't that amazing? Now, I can't top that, so I'm going to quit. Thanks for coming out. Now, here's my suggestion, friends. It's just a little after 11. I went on for about an hour. Thank you for your patience. You want to take a short break, and then if you'd like to come forward, I'm happy for you to, as I say, pick up a couple of the broken pieces. I'll talk to you a little bit about them. But if you want to take off and get to lunch early, that's fine too. So just, how about a 5-10 minute break, and then for those who would like to, you can gather right here. Fair enough? So be it. Well, I can.
Do you give these lectures fairly often?
Fairly often, I guess. I'm sure. I do it whenever my superiors here tell me I'm going to do one.
How does Noah's getting through, George?
It's called former students, you see.
I have one student question.
Yeah, yeah.
This is a sexist question.
Well,
Get ready.
I'm ready.
So the potters themselves, were they predominantly men?
Predominantly men, but they were both.
Oh, really?
Hmm.
Are they using seawater or are they using drinking water?
Drinking water, not salt water.
Okay.
Part of it is that potters tended to be a bit itinerant. So you might be in a place where there's abundant resources in clay, but you might have to move for a while. And so typically a potter would have, or potters would have think about a sales route. You know, a salesman or woman will say that this is my territory, and they would produce things like that. And so, typically the people in the sales and delivery business are going to be men. So women can make the pottery, but they're not going to do much delivering, just to put it bluntly. And it is what it is.
Can you tell us
Yes,
more
ma'am.
about this piece?
I can, yes, ma'am. If you look at that one, you will see that it was made in a mold. I showed you a couple of examples of molds up there. Yeah, this one right here. And so what you think of a stone, hollowed out here with the mirror decoration, then you put the clay in there until it dries, and then you try to separate it so it doesn't crumble, and then you can bake it, put it into the kiln. So that's mass produced. And everybody would have several of these because you can put it, I'll put it in my hand. You can put it in your hand like this and you can carry it. And so you've got your oil in there and your wick comes out here and
Oh, it's on that.
it's a lamp, yeah. And it come out like this, and so you could move around at night. Yeah, it's like a flashlight, Or it is like a flashlight, or you see, here's the utility part of it. You could put it on a table, and then you say, well, I'm going to my bedroom. You can take it with you and put it on a table there, and you go outside. It can go with you. Or you can just leave it stationary, depending on how many you have. But if you're dealing with processed oil, so you don't want to waste it, just like you don't want to
And the oil comes from?
be mostly olive oil. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, is that a two process or a one process? Because you've got the mold
Yeah,
and
good
then
idea.
what
One.
about the
It's
other
one
side?
process.
Then when do they put the other, the bottom part that holds, that goes on your hand?
That's all one.
It's all one piece. It actually is all one piece. Yeah. Now this one, for example, the key to this one is the little handle right here. So you'll have a leather strap or something like leather, and it'll hang right beside a larger pitcher. So, for example, if you want to get something out, how are you going to pour it? Well, you can have my ice cream scooper, but that's not quite going to work. So you could dip it in like this and then pour it. So it's like a funnel, that's right. And it would be primarily for oil. And the thing about oil is it might, quote, just be oil. I'm not joking. It might just be oil, but it might have all kinds of things in it. It was used for perfumes, soaps. You could mix it. The term in the Old Testament was somebody who was anointed with oil.
Yeah.
This is the kind of thing that you would have. You could put it in there, and you could anoint a king or a prophet and pour it on their head. But this is a utilitarian piece right here. And this one is the kind of thing that you put into a tomb, and it would have held something sweet smelling. So probably some kind of a perfume or an unguent, something like that, perhaps. And here's your workhorse lamp right here, and you can see that it was put in the tomb, and typically when you find it, you don't wash away or remove the burned wick on it. So you can see that they left it burning, and then it finally went out. I'll turn it over. You can see on the bottom, right here. So it's not crude, but it's also not fine china where this is again I use the term a workhorse. Is what you had, and it's a little larger to be carried, and it's look at it, it's kind of shallow also, isn't it? But this is about the time you're looking for a biblical hook, about the time of Moses, or maybe a little earlier.
What are the markers to date for pottery?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Think of it this way. I grew up in North Carolina, and we all loved cars as boys. So I could go to the junkyard, and he'll recognize it. I could go to the junkyard, and I say, that's a 57 Chevy taillight right there. And that's a 64 GTO front end right there. And I just knew it, because I love fast cars. And so once you have got a secure place, when you're digging, and so you have various ways of saying, this is, let's say, this is a middle bronze to late bronze, about 1500 BC. And then you find these elsewhere. The rule of thumb is they're the same approximate date. Now, I showed you one of the slides up there. It gave you a kind of a typology. So whenever you have unique or one or two of a kind, it can throw things off. But if you have utilitarian wear, you recognize it. Just like, and I don't mean this to be facetious, think about what an anthropologist might say about us in 500 years. That's early plastic, and that's early polymer, and that's an iPhone 3, and they'll be able to date things because they're of the repetitive exam. It's the same thing for pottery.
Were the people smaller in stature?
Yes.
Because everything is so tiny. I mean, to get your hands on that little tiny handle,
Yeah.
and your fingers around it, they must have been,
Yeah. Everybody but Goliath.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they would say, what was it? The work they have done from cemeteries and so forth would suggest your average height for a man might be 5'5", 5'6", something like that, and women a couple inches shorter than that. So you see, I would be at least average back then. Now I'm shorty. A couple other quick comments, if you like, and again, nobody has to stay. I put all these pieces together because they're good examples of painted ware. You can assume for any of those pieces when they were whole, that was fine china.
Because
And
of the coloring?
yeah. Mm-hmm. So take
The coloring's consistent throughout.
yeah, and there are various kind of colors. So take a look at this one, for example. Look how nicely straight those two lines are right there.
It's
It is. So what that tells you is that the wheel was pretty fast, and so they were able, once they got it spinning fairly quickly, yeah, but it was constant. Then you would have something. I don't know if you held a person's hand or whatever, and they could do just like this. So as the wheel turned around, they could get those lines. I mean, it's just beautiful, aren't they? I can give you an approximate date. Yes, ma'am. I will in just a minute. But let me see a couple other things while I've got this up. You can see how they took some care on both the inside and the outside. It's try to smooth it a little bit, and so the unworked clay is right there in the middle, the darker color right there. And this is the rim. So you're looking at a piece that went about like this. So it's like an open bowl, perhaps, something like that. And you can also see, and I'm glad to hand this to you, you can see a little bit of striations there, but right here in particular, you can see how it turned quite quickly. Now, in terms of dates, these are not often exactly the same date, but most of these would be from about 1200 to about 800 BC.
And you know that because
Several things. Part of it has to do with this design. I did most of my work in Jordan. This is fine china ware from the Moabites and Ammonites. It's where my research interest. So that's why I got them right there. This would be a little bit earlier. This came down from the Jordan Valley. Now, you can see they smoothed this quite a bit before they baked it. Just take it in your hand, you'll see, feel how smooth that is. Not on the inside, on the outside. You see how smooth that is. So they worked it very carefully to make sure that it would have a kind of a bit of a sheen to it. And then again, you can see how well the stripes are put on it. So you've got consistent control of that wheel and a very firm hand. I mean, you know, if you go to a working wood shop, you get a vise, so you have it just so straight. You wouldn't make any mistakes there.
You have to have it on the center also to prevent wobble.
I'm telling you, yeah. You can imagine that these are successes. They must have had some failures.
And what kind of paint are they using?
They will use, sometimes it will have soil, but usually it's a pigment of things like, it can be charcoal, it can be leaves, a little bit of oil mixed in sometimes. A quick comment. So later on, during after the Islamic wave comes in, that culture liked enamel. So here's some examples right here of ancient enamel pieces. You can take it. You see it right there. Here was a little platter. Right here, it was shaped about like that. It went around and had a bowl. You can imagine the olives or the grapes that somebody would have set in there at some point. Yeah. That one, this is a bit more recent. This was probably during the Ottoman period, maybe 400 or 500 years old. This is real young. Here's a spout right there. You can see. See how thick that is. So this is what you call again a workhorse. You know that's a pretty solid piece of pottery right there. A couple other things I'll just say real quickly. So here you'll see a basic ring base. So there it is right there, and then you have this core right here. You can see the striations, and so they do it like this, and sometimes they'll cut it with a little bit of a cord to pull it off of the wheel. But it was see, that's what we call a profile. So the vessel would have come out like that. Let's see. Here's one, probably from a cooking vessel. This is be younger. This would probably be Roman period. So you could grab it like this, and it would have been a kind of mid-sized cooking pot. You can see how they formed it right here and the striations. It's a good example right there. Now let's see, here's one, they call them rills, R-I-L-L-S. So as it's spinning on the wheel, if you have enough of a fingernail or more likely a piece of bone, you can make some nice rills in it as it turns. It's just an added decoration, nothing.
Well, it must have been quite nice to keep the bugs and the rodents out, but do they get sick from the residue being inside and heat?
I don't.
Who knows, right?
Who knows? Think of your alternatives. Yeah. This is not bad. Here again, I'll do that this quickly. You can see they took some time on the rim, and you can see how dark that clay was. Because you look at some of these, and you'll see it's kind of black. Here's one. It's darker, right there. But you can see the different kinds of clay right there, and they did that rill all the way around as it was spinning. Let's see. Okay, here's another as a base right there. It would have set about like that. Anybody else with a question, comment, correction?
No, thank you so much for allowing us to see it.
Thank you for coming out.
Current political situation doing to digs and to excavation sites?
Yeah. Each government has its own standards. Think, for example, if what's the name of the place they excavated in Florence? Right up here, I can't think of it now. it's indigenous culture. Beverly, you'll think of it in a minute, or I will. You have to have a permit to dig that, is the point. And so who's going to issue that? Probably the Department of Land Management or something for the state of Texas. It won't be a nationally, it will be decided by the state. So in Jordan, where I've done most of my work, they have what's called a Department of Antiquities. And so you make an application to work for them. And they like consortiums. So to kind of put it crassly, they want a piece of this. And so they'll say, you need to work with one of our representatives in maybe one of our schools, which is fine. And then they'll say, we want you to pay for it all. And we'll have to agree to that. It's called negotiation, right? Golf, yeah. Galt, yeah, thanks, Beverly. I appreciate you doing that. And then that will have consortiums. So, for example, it was Gannon University, it was Austin Seminary, it was Abilene Christian University, and there was a university from Toronto. It may have been the University of Toronto. We were in a consortium, and we worked with them. And they have their representatives there and so forth.
Is it easier to get into Jordan to do digs than it is
It used to be, I'm old enough I can remember when you first got started, you had a choice. If I wanted to work in Israel, I could, but then I could not work in an Arab country. That has since changed. So I took a look at the map, and much as I love Israel and the work there and so forth, I realized that Syria and Egypt and Jordan, I'd like to work there too. Syria and Jordan were less developed, so I was thinking, where am I going to get best chances to get in, have longevity, and it's self-preservation. I want to write a book. I want to get tenure. And this is how you do it. I want to climb the ladder. So I ended up choosing Jordan. So I only worked 1 year on an excavation in Israel. I was happy to get a chance to do that, but I worked a number of summers. Yes, ma'am.
Did you have to receive approval to take these out of the area?
Great question. By and large, there are tons and tons and tons of broken pieces of pottery in the ancient world. As you know, Tom, you're there. So they don't really care if you take those. They don't want you to exceed your weight limit going home on the plane. That's really the thing. They don't really care. Now, these pieces are different. It's a great question. And most of the countries there in that region do not sell antiquities because they think it encourages looting. The only people who sell legally are in Israel. It's a complicated matter, so I'll summarize very quickly. Back after World War I, when the British were running things in the area, they allowed certain kinds of autonomy for commerce. And so because of that, when Israel formed as a state, they took over that. And so with a certain kind of license, you can sell. So that there are licensed dealers. And the government, to their credit, the Israeli government, they're always going in and checking on things. And most of these were traditionally run by Arabs. I did all of everything that I have purchased, I purchased through Palestinians. I think I've purchased a single thing through an Israeli.
So these are things that you were for sale.
Yes, let me rephrase that. This was, I have some things that were found on the spot that I have that I probably shouldn't have, but I have them. And you're not going to tell.
No.
You're not telling.
Mom's the way.
These two actually came from Prescott.
Really?
He acquired somebody that they will know. He acquired this. He acquired those in the early '60s. So about 2/3 of my lamp collection. I've got a collection, that spans. You've seen them, and they came from Prescott. Yeah. do a
Excellent.
left-handed shake. I love that.
Yeah. I learned to do that too real quick.
Yeah. I'm glad you're doing well, Dennis.
I'll be back to that.
Okay, pal. We'll see you. Bye, Sharon.
Well, it's pretty scary even
We
moving.
go. I think Chris may go with us too. We'll see.
That's pretty scary moving that stuff around.
I'm going to be very careful. That's correct. That is correct.
For bringing that.
Yes. Thank you for coming. Yes, sir.
Get your last name and then.
Yeah, the last name is Dearman. Dearman. Just like it sounds.